Order. Ms. Brown, would you please take the roll?
Sunday. Mumgard. Gaines. Glover. Fansla. Klug. Stube. Engberg.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. And do we have an affidavit of publication on file?
We do.
The current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of the council chambers. Start with the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Gaines, second by Councilman Sunday. Any proponents or opponents? Council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item E1, Ordinance 2005. An ordinance to amend Chapter 205-262, maximum permitted sign area of Article 37 signs of Chapter 205 zoning regulations having to do with the maximum permitted sign area in the Central Business District. The applicant's the City of Papillion. It's a public hearing. I'll open it. Do we have any proponents or opponents? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Item E2, Ordinance 2009, an ordinance to redefine ward boundaries due to annexation. It's a public hearing. I'll open it. Any proponents or opponents? Welcome. Please, thank you. Should state your name and address for the record.
Mike Erdman, 926 South Madison Street. I'm not opposed or, I guess, in favor of it. I'm going to lose two good city council members for this, but I understand the need for the change. Certainly, Trumbull Park being encompassed into Ward 2, I think is appropriate considering it encompasses most of the old parts of town. Might be a good thing to do here. So, but I really came tonight just to publicly thank Steve Sunday and Luann Klug for everything that you've done for our ward, or at least for Trumbull Park in our ward currently. Whether it was redeveloping Madison and Gunther Street and all that, that was a big project. I appreciate all of that, maintenance codes, getting all that up to help our older neighborhoods, Ward 2 now, from decline, so I appreciate that. And everything else that you've done, including standing up last week to try to at least delay for a short period of time the Harrison Street punch through. So I appreciate that. Thank you both for so much. Steve and Steve Ingberg and Jason got some big shoes to fill. Jason, I've watched you for a while, a few years. I think you're consistent in your voting, etc. A constitutionalist and as well as property rights advocate, so I respect that. I had some things to say for Mr. Ingberg, but since he's not here tonight, I'll reserve those for another time, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other proponents or opponents? I'll close the public hearing. Next is item E3, Ordinance 2010, an ordinance to approve a change of zone from AG Agricultural to LI Limited Industrial for the property legally described as Tax Lot 3A1B1 and Tax Lot 3A1B2, located in Section 2, Township 13 North, Range 11 East of the 6 p.m., Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located on the northeast corner of South 156th Street and Capehart Road. The applicant is Prairie Tower Business Park, LLC, R&R Commerce Park South 2. It's a public hearing. I'll open it. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Patrick J. Sullivan, 1246 Golden Gate Drive here in Papillion. On behalf of the applicant, I also have Kyle Vall with E&A Consulting, as well as Mike Homa, who's the owner's representative. This is more of the same, as best I can tell you, more warehousing that's going to be built in this area. If you have any questions, one of us three will try to answer it for you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other proponents or opponents? I'll close the public hearing. E4, Ordinance 2011, an ordinance to approve a change of zone from LI Limited Industrial to LI PUD2 Limited Industrial with a specific planned unit development overlay for the property legally described as lots 1 and 2 Commerce Business Center Replat 8, generally located at 15350 Shepherd Street. The applicant is 88 Tactical. It's a public hearing. I'll open it. Any proponents or opponents? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. E5, Ordinance 2012, an ordinance to authorize the operation of golf cars on city streets, submitted by Councilmember Tom Mumgard. It's a public hearing. I'll open it. Do we have any proponents? Welcome. And if you come up, if you'd state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Jean Bellamy, and I live at 611 Madison Street. And this is my neighbor, Carol. want to go ahead and give your address?
705 North Madison Street. We live in Hunter's Crossing. And 10 years ago, I had a brain aneurysm, and I lost some of my vision, and so they took my driver's license away. 3.5 years ago, my husband has Parkinson's. They have taken his license. So this golf cart would help us tremendously. I worked really hard last year. I went to the eye doctor, the med center, and Madonna Rehab, and I got my license. And I passed with the state of Nebraska. But a car is just not feasible for us because with my limitation, I can't go on anything over 45. I can only go within 10 miles of my home. And my husband said a car is just not feasible for us. So this golf cart would really make my life better, just to get my husband out of the house and get some fresh air and sunshine.
And you can see Carol's very vibrant. She's the primary caretaker for her husband, who's now homebound. And so being able to drive to Target, Home Depot, the bank, over to the grocery store and the businesses around that area would have a huge impact on her life. So we just think of Carol and her miraculous recovery from her brain aneurysm when you
Yes, I
think
know
about
there's
voting about this.
a lot of people worse off than I am. But this would just, I depend on everything, somebody for everything, whether it's the grocery store, a doctor, an eye appointment. And now my husband has to have 2 cataract surgeries, and I'm looking for 4 different people to take us 4 different times. It's really hard on my family. I've got a daughter, I've got a sister and a brother and another neighbor here. And they all know how hard it is for me to ask for it.
Yeah, she's very humble. But please consider her when you're thinking about approving this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other proponents? Welcome.
Teresa Brown, Carol's sister, and I just want to say, do what you can to help people like Carol who want to be independent. Imagine if you had to stay home every single day and wait for somebody to come and pick you up, to give you a ride, to go get groceries, can't go get gas, to mail a letter, to get stamps, to go buy those Christmas cards, to go buy, your grandkids' birthday card or a birthday present or whatever it is. And for 10 years, she's had to ask for that. But a year ago, she took it on for herself to go get that driver's license, to fight the medical system, to make sure she could do it. She passed all the tests. She passed the medical test. She passed the driver's test. But being confident behind a car is different than being confident behind a golf cart. And so I, too, would just encourage you to pass this to help people like Carol who need just a little bit of assistance to have that independence on their own.
Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
Philip Lordeman, 7538 Oakwood, Ralston, Nebraska. I'm Carol's brother, but live in Ralston, and we have golf cart ordinance in place there. Of course, you have to have license, you have to have lights and blinkers, the whole 9 yards on the golf cart. We've had absolutely no problems in Ralston there with the golf cart issue, and especially on holidays like for the 4th of July and different times, it really works out well. I've got a neighbor right behind me that has 2 little kids. Her husband passed away a year ago, and for her to be able to take that golf cart and take her kids out for a ride and just get away from the house and stuff works really well for them. And like you say, whatever you can do to help get them out of the house would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So you live in Ralston.
Yes, sir.
How many golf carts are there driving around Ralston?
Not a lot. Not a lot. There's probably more in Old Town Ralston than on the other side of 84th Street, of course, but they're around there.
Okay, you drive a car through Ralston too, I assume.
Yes.
What kind of conflict are you experiencing between cars and golf carts?
There's not much because of the few. People are very respectful of the golf carts. Like I say, there's usually kids on the golf carts with their parents and stuff like that. And on the holidays, people are well aware of people traveling by foot and on golf carts. And it, like I say, we've had no problems at all.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Do we have any other proponents or opponents? Welcome.
Mike Erdman again, 926 South Madison Street. I just have some questions, Mr. Mumgard, and for the rest of the council. It sounds like any modified four-wheel vehicle that has brake lights and turn signals and mirrors and a cart on the back would qualify for a golf cart. At least what I've seen. I've looked them up. So I've seen some pretty fancy ones, you know, in the $15,000 range that look more like a sport utility vehicle than it does a golf cart. So that's one of my concerns, is how that'll be taken by the rest of the public. The other thing is, we need to register this, but will it be a plated vehicle? Is that what, or just a simple registration?
Let me answer those questions.
Sure.
First off, a golf car is defined by state law.
Okay.
And it has a weight limitation, a passenger limitation, and a speed limitation. It can't go over, it's a vehicle that is designed to not go over 20 miles per hour.
Okay.
That state law is incorporated into this ordinance. It's what we're stuck with. Some of that stuff you're talking about would be under state law the next level up.
Okay.
Something between a car and a golf car. Number one, you know, the ATV, it's going to have a speed ability higher than the 20 miles
25.
per hour. So no, those things are not going to be allowed under this ordinance. Secondly, what was your other question?
Registration plated?
The answer is no.
No, okay.
That's the distinction drawn under state law. Those other things that are heavier, faster, etc., they have to get registered under state law. They're almost a car. These do not have to get, golf cars do not have to get registered under state law. They would have to get a permit under this with the city, so that basically, so we can keep track of what's out there. That's
Okay.
it. So bottom line, these are relatively lesser expensive than that other stuff you're talking about.
Okay. Will the registration fee be a flat fee, or will it be based on age and value like cars, or how is that going to be structured?
I think it's a flat fee, permit fee.
We can take that question and get back to you.
Okay, and those fees will cover all the expenses for this program for the city to maintain the registration, citations, those kinds of things?
Well, we wouldn't really have any expenses other than keeping track of the permits, because, you know, you don't have to register, you don't have to get a license plate, all those types of things
Right.
that you would with a more powerful vehicle. This would be just simply, once a year, you have to come into the city and get a permit just like you do for bicycles, you know, for a lot of different things.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you can be cited if you take this out on one of the trails or something else, or where it's not permitted. How will the citations work? How's it collected? Where does it go? How do you appeal or contest it?
Okay. It has, this
Mr.
ordinance has a lot of restrictions in it.
Okay.
Number one, you have to be 20 years old or older. So any of those teenagers that think this is going to be a good time, forget it. You get out there with these and you're going to get a ticket. If you're driving something that something that you would typically see on the golf course, no, you're going to get a ticket. It doesn't have the safety equipment that's required by this.
So a police officer will write a citation.
Oh, it's a ticket just like anything else, yes.
Okay, but does that given to the state also? Is that a state citation, like a traffic violation would be, where you would go to your county to pay that, and
I don't
state
know.
gets a share?
I guess I don't know. It would be a violation of an ordinance, and whether it goes against your driver's license or something like that, I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Just a couple more quick questions. Since this is a new vehicle type on our roads, how are we going to educate the rest of the driving public to understand the rules of that particular vehicle? I mean, if I'm driving down Madison Street, you know, I always like to praise my street. If I'm driving down Madison and I'm behind my 80-year-old neighbor going 15 miles an hour, and I'd like to kick it up the street to get home, I can pass a bicycle, even an e-bike or something like that, but I don't think that would be allowed in this case, or would it?
Well, I guess number one, it'll be, you know, publicized just like any other ordinance. Number two, I'm working with staff that, yes, we'll have this on YouTube, we'll have it on all those places that we go to notify people. I know there'll be a story in the Papillion Times or the Sarpy Times if anybody reads that. There will be at least one TV station that'll be covering it.
Okay.
Beyond that, I would anticipate you're going to have people who go driving down the street and encounter one of these golf carts and wonder what's going on.
That's
Then
gonna
you'll
be the case
notify them.
initially.
You know, and I would point out that one thing that I think very important in this ordinance is the list of streets that you cannot drive it on. Anything that has a speed limit higher than 25 miles per hour, you cannot. We have also listed a great number of streets, you know, Washington, Giles, all those. No, you can't. You can cross them to go from one to the other, just like a pedestrian could, but that's it. And then we went around, and there are a few 25 mile per hour streets that really aren't very wide and carry some traffic, and we said, no, you can't drive it on those. You have to, you know, the collector type streets, they're wider than normal, so yes, you're not going to get as much, you know, conflict between a car and a golf cart.
Okay. Can they be handicap placard? When you take it to drive to a business and there's handicap, can you park in a handicap spot? Can they be placarded?
Well, I was just going to suggest, if you've got a whole list of questions,
just one
let's
last
go ahead
que-
and set
just-
up a meeting
just
and
one
we can
last
answer them
question is
all.
all.
Number one,
And I was gonna send
number one, I
these
can
to
tell
you
you, I don't know, that would be state law. Secondly, it would be up to the private business what you can do with it on the private business. We don't regulate once it leaves the street, we don't have any say on that.
Okay, and I know Shadow Lake's gonna be banned. What about the Tower District? That's the last question. If you guys, I just wanna make sure, with Harrison Street going through now, that's been approved. So that's really all. I mean, from my house, I could take a golf cart up to the new grocery store that's being built or fast food restaurant or whatever that may be.
Tower District's outside city limits.
It is, so that wouldn't apply. So
It's
I
an
couldn't drive
SID.
it there anyway.
That's
All right.
for the future.
Fair enough, that
You know,
clarifies
and
that.
I'd point out, as the ordinance is written, you could not take one of these from the north side of town to the south side or vice versa.
Right.
Because there's no way to get across the creek on a 25 mile per hour street.
Agreed. Okay, all right, that's my questions. I appreciate your time.
You bet. Any other proponents or opponents? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Next is item F1, Resolution R230150, a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve the 1 and 6 year road plan. It's a public hearing. I'll open it. Any proponents or opponents? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R230150? Motion by Councilman Stubbe, second by Councilman Glover. Council discussion. Seeing none, please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. F2, Resolution R230155, a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve a preliminary plat for the property legally described as Tax Lot 3A1B1 and Tax Lot 3A1B2, located in Section 2, Township 13, North Range 11 East of the 6 p.m. Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located on the northeast corner, south 156th Street and Capehart Road. Applicant's Prairie Tower Business Park. It's related to the previous item. R&R Commerce Park South 2. Public hearing, and I'll open it. Welcome.
Again, Patrick Sullivan, along with Mike Homa and Kyle Vall, here to answer any questions, and this would be for both item 2 and item 3 on your agenda.
Thank you. Any other proponents or opponents? I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R230155? Motion by Councilman Stubbe, second by Councilwoman Klug. Any discussion? Please vote. Councilman Fanslow made the motion. Councilman Klug made the second. Thank you.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Related item. Excuse me. F3, a resolution R230156. It's also a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve a large project special use permit for the property legally described as Tax Lot 3A1B1, Tax Lot 3A1B2, located Section 2, Township 13, North Range 11 East of the 6 p.m., Sarpy County, Nebraska. Northeast quarter, south 156th Street and Capehart Road, Prairie Tower Business Park, R&R Commerce Park South 2. Public hearing. Any other proponents or opponents? I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R230156? Motion by Councilman Glover. Second by Councilman Mumgard. Any discussion? Please vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. F4, Ordinance 2008, an ordinance to amend Papillion Municipal Code Section 153-3 and to repeal 166.2 and 166.11 to clearly address permitted obstructions within the right-of-way. Is there a motion to approve Ordinance 2008? Motion by Councilman Gaines. Second by Councilman Stube. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Substantive changes to what exists now. We're just making it more clear for everybody. Is that
That's my understanding, but I asked
correct?
Mr. Kleffner to clarify that.
Yes, there was just some confusion in the code. There was, it was mentioned in multiple occasions what was allowed, wasn't allowed. And so this is basically combining them all into one, so it clears up all the confusion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
It's all the regular agenda items. No committees have met. Any comments from the floor? We've got a number of students with us, and the rule is you got to come up and introduce yourself and let us know why you're here, and we're not going to leave until everybody does it. So you might as well start lining up. We're waiting. Every one of you. You can start lining up. And I'm assuming it's all Mr. Keller's fault.
Yeah. I'm Caleb, and I'm here for my civic participation project.
I'm Talon. I'm also here for my civic participation project.
Oh, you got to give us last names.
Oh, Talon Draft.
All right.
Hello, I am Sam Goodwin. I'm here for the civic participation project as well.
I am Jack Vossen. I am also here for the civic participation project.
I'm Aspen Liu, and I'm here for the civic participation project.
I'm Sydney Brooks, and I'm also here for the civic participation project.
I'm Alex Muller, and I'm also here for the civic participation project.
I'm Matthew West, but I'm also here for the civil participation project.
I'm Eliana Cook, and I'm here for the civic participation project.
I'm Johnny Temple. I'm also here for the civic participation project.
I'm Rachel Vrabel. I'm here for the AP Gov thing. I don't know.
I'm Aya Gret, and I'm here to see how my town works.
I have a question.
Yes?
Is today the last day that you could come in here? Is that why everybody's here?
I don't think so.
I'm here to, I want to commend you all for not waiting till the end of the semester.
Thank you all, and welcome. And if you got any questions, I'm assuming a few of us will hang around afterwards if you got any questions. Any other comments from the floor? Welcome, sir. And just real quick, in case there's anybody else, when it's comments from the floor, we can't respond back because it's not a published agenda item, so the Open Meetings Act doesn't allow us to, but we will listen. So welcome, and name and address for the record.
So, Frank Lute, 10227 Josephine Street, La Vista. So former resident of Papillion, Bellevue, and now resident of La Vista. So my comment will be, I appreciate the discussion on the ordinance that you're considering regarding golf carts. So I live in a SID, so people in the SID operate golf carts, and it gets interesting between the vehicular traffic and the golf cart traffic. So as an interested citizen, I appreciate the responses that I heard in this forum. And I appreciate that the city of Papillion is doing due diligence to think about what you are considering and taking into consideration both public safety as well as public accessibility, because both are important. So thank you for your time.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Any other comments from the floor? Council comments? Just from the last couple of weeks, Sarpy Chamber had their economic development outlook. That was attended pretty well. The Papillion Garden Club, they built the butterfly garden at Veterans Park. They had an annual event. A lot of people showed up for that, so it was good to see the support for that. Pine and Black, the new bistro in Midlands Place, had their ribbon cutting. That was well attended. And then the League of Nebraska Municipalities had their annual conference. Mr. Mumgard was there. A number of others were there. And then the United Cities met as well. No major agenda item on the United Cities other than just, again, the reminder if there's some legislation that you're interested in that we would maybe need to do some research on or even advocate for, let us know that. And then if it's appropriate, we can work that through the United Cities. So just let Amber or myself know if you're interested in anything there. The Nebraska Recreation Park Association had their annual conference, and they had that at Papillion Landing. So Papillion was the host of that. So that was nice to see the professionals from around the state come in. And then Founders Ridge, which is our new senior housing project, had their groundbreaking. That's out about 126th, and that's going to have not just market rate, but also some affordable housing component in there for our seniors. So real pleased about that. And then a couple of reminders. There is a statewide project called the Nebraska Memorial Forest. And the goal is to plant a tree for every fallen soldier or first responder from Nebraska. And there's 7,100 trees that they want to plant to make up this memorial forest across the state. Most cities are, if they're signing up, are planting like 10 to 15 trees. We're taking 200. We've identified an area, Prairie Queen, so a little bit along a pathway where it's in the sun, and then a little bit of a grove, and then every tree will have a name on it of who that's honoring. And I share that because October 17th is going to be a planting party. So if you want to plant a tree, reach out to Tony. On October 17th, they'll be planting that project. It was grant funded by the NRD, and we got a great relationship with the NRD, with Walnut Creek and Prairie Queen and all that. So they reached out to us, and we found a spot. It's pretty hard to find a spot that will absorb 200 trees and be able to care for them. So it's a major project. But Tony was real comfortable with it. And then, yes, ma'am, October 17th. And I think it's in the morning. And then the Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Memorial, they reached the fundraising goal to start that project. Dirt started moving last week out there. And because of a delayed start and anticipation of winter, they're not going to be able to hit the 3/29 date, or they don't want to push for it. And so the next date that they're going to shoot for, well, the project will be done, but the next significant military date after completion is June 6th, D-Day. And so that's when they're going to schedule the formal groundbreaking for that. And one thing I just learned, if anybody's familiar with the Vietnam War history, there was the USS Frank Evans. It was a ship that was just outside of the conflict zone, and an Australian ship hit it, and 74 Americans were killed in that, 4 of them from Nebraska, and 3 of them were brothers. If you've ever heard the story of the Sage brothers, they were on that. And those 74 are not listed on the Vietnam Wall in Washington, D.C., because the government does not consider them Vietnam fatalities because they were just outside of the conflict zone. But the wall we're putting up that will honor all of the Nebraska Vietnam vets will have them on there. And they just had an association meeting. They have an annual conference every year. And George Abbott, the gentleman that's working on this memorial, went down and spoke to them. And I anticipate we'll probably see about 40 people from the USS Evans coming up to our groundbreaking. So it's becoming a really significant project. So put June 6th on your calendar for the potential for the ribbon cutting for that. And then October 16th to 22nd is fall cleanup days. 16th to 22nd, and people always ask about shredding. That Saturday morning on the 21st, about 7 to noon, the shredding truck will be here. So we'll advertise that widely, but I know you get a lot of questions about that. I think that's all the major items. Any other discussion or updates? Motion to adjourn? Motion by Councilman Glover. Second by Councilman Gaines. Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
We are adjourned. Thank you.